What's up guys, my name's Brandon and today Apple released iOS 18 Beta 1 and in this video I'm going to show you more than 20 standout features and changes, and you can see straight from my home screen there is a lot that's new with iOS 18. So let's start with exactly what you're seeing right now, and that is the changes to the home screen, including being able to move icons wherever you want almost on the home screen grid, and also custom app icon colors. And I would consider this the biggest change ever to the home screen. So how you do this is just anywhere from the home screen, just tap and hold on an empty area and we get the classic jiggle mode, but up top we now have an edit button instead of what used to be a plus. And when you tap on edit, you have the option to customize. So you can add a widget like always, but now we have customize. And when you tap on that, you get these options down here for automatic, dark, light, or tinted, and you could also change your app icons from small to large. So you can see that is what the large icons look like. I like having them small, but if you go to automatic, you can see since my phone is in light mode currently, it changes it to what my overall system theme is. But if I go to dark, we get the dark tint right there. And then also we have tinted where you can change the color. So if I want these to be like a blue tint, or any color I want, green, we have pink, purple, we have red. You can change the look of the app icons based on that. And you can change kind of the opacity right here, the saturation of that color. And you can even use a color picker to choose a color on your background. And then we also have this button right here. And if you tap on that, it will darken the background. So you have a dark mode for your wallpaper built into this section as well. And then for moving the app icons, you can just simply take and drag and put that icon wherever you want, which is pretty cool. It's still, you can't put it in the middle. So you still have that grid going across where it has to be, in one of these 4 slots, but you have a lot more freedom than you've ever had before on an iPhone, which is awesome. Now, perhaps the biggest change of all in iOS 18 is the control center. So if you swipe down from the top right, take a look at this. This looks like a jailbroken iPhone. This does not even look like something that Apple would ship, and I love it. I mean, it takes a while to get used to these round icons that you can see down here, but let's start from the top to the bottom because there's a lot to unpack here. So first off, up in the top left-hand corner, we have a plus icon, and we can add a control center toggle straight from the control center itself instead of needing to go into your settings. Now, also you'll notice that you can resize pretty much anything here. It looks like the only things you cannot resize are the volume, the brightness, and the focus mode section right there. You can only remove them. So you can change the size of the icons. You can see you kind of just grab on the little grabber icon there, and you can make them smaller or larger, which is really neat. And you can see it's kind of laggy right now. This is a first beta, but you can change how those look, which is pretty neat. And then also if you go to add a control, there are several new controls that you can add to the control center. And you can see these go on and on and on. You can add a lot of new toggles to the control center here, which is really nice. It gives you a lot of flexibility in here. So we're going to go out of the jiggle mode in the control center. And now you'll notice that also up top, before we get away from this, we have a power off button. So you can now press that and it will take you to the slide to power off. So it doesn't give you the option to restart it, but it does give you the option to slide to power off. Now from here, if we swipe down, we have another page of app icons. So again, we had all those different, icons to choose from, all those different control center toggles to choose from. So we have a whole separate page here if you have more toggles that you want to add to the control center. And if you keep swiping, we have our now playing, where we can also control our other media devices. And then we have our HomeKit down here in its own separate section. So you won't accidentally press those in the control center all the time like I do. And then swipe one more time down and you will see that we have the platter here for airplane mode, AirDrop. All of our connectivity settings are in their own separate section as well. You could also tap on the icon here, or you can also take your finger and drag for a really cool animation, and you can feel the haptic feedback as well. You can just go through these different pages. And by the way, you can still access that connectivity platter just by haptic pressing on that section, but it does have its own standalone section down here as well if you just wanted to get to it that way. Oh, and while we're here, I want to show you the new flashlight dynamic island animation, which is quite interesting. So you can see it takes up a lot of screen real estate on the screen, but it does have a pretty cool animation there, and you can take and kind of lower the brightness, to lower the intensity or strengthen the intensity of the flashlight. And you see the animation that goes along with it, which is pretty neat. It does go quite far down the screen. It looks good because I have my app icons moved down, but I don't know, I think it needs a little bit of work. It does go down quite a bit on the home screen, but it is pretty cool and I love that animation. Another major feature in iOS 18 is the ability to lock applications with Face ID. Something I never thought would be possible on iOS is now possible with iOS 18. So if I wanted to lock the Photos application, for example, I could just haptic press on the app icon and you'll notice we have a brand new toggle at the bottom that says require Face ID. If we tap on that, it's going to say require Face ID for Photos, and you just tap on require, and now it is locked once you scan your face. And you can even see apps with access to Photos can also be, shown. You can still see, different things that have access to Photos, but you can't get into the actual Photos application itself until you scan your face with Face ID, which is awesome. So I have to talk about the new squeeze animations that you see when taking a screenshot or touching the volume buttons, any of that. Take a look at this. If I turn my volume up or down, pay attention to the left-hand side. You see that? That little subtle animation? That's what makes Apple Apple. I mean, when I go to screenshot, you could see on both sides, look at both sides right there sticking out. That is such a minor animation, but in my opinion, it's just so nice that I had to mention it. We also have some pretty big changes in the Messages application. So if you open up Messages and you go into a message, you already got a little sneak peek of a feature right there. But one of the features I want to talk about is tap back with emoji. So you know how before, if you tapped and held on a text message or an iMessage from somebody, you were only able to thumbs up, thumbs down, haha, all of that. Well, now you can add any emoji as a tap back reaction. And also you'll notice that the tap back icons there are colorful. They're not black and gray anymore like they used to be. So you can scroll over here and you'll see some of your recently used emojis, and you can go ahead and react with a fire emoji and you'll see it right there, and the other person will see it as well. Now also in the Messages application is added effects for individual words or even individual characters. So if I type out "this is awesome," you will see that if I select the awesome right there, we have this little A icon above the keyboard on the right-hand side. If I tap on that, I get this little platter that allows me to change, if I want to bold it, italics, underline, strike through, or add an effect. So if I wanted to add an explode, this is awesome. You can see the animation in real time right there. And you can go through these different ones to see how they look. And then when you send that, the other person will see, and you will see that one individual character, that one individual word being animated. Before in iOS 17 and previous versions, you were able to do this, but it was only for the entire message, not individual words or characters. You can even do this for emojis as well. But that is not all, because there's another feature in iOS 18 that I've been waiting for years on, and that is the ability to schedule text messages. So you can now schedule to send a message at a later date. So if you always forget to tell somebody happy birthday, you can schedule that so you no longer need to remember that. So if you type out happy birthday and then you tap on the plus right here and then swipe down, you'll notice that we have a new option called send later. And from here, you can choose a date and a time to send that message. Now you can only send it 2 weeks in advance, so I can only send it up to June 24th since that is 14 days away, but you can select to choose it at a certain date and a certain time. So if I select right there, you can see that it shows happy birthday, and we have the little option there, or the little thing that says send later, and then you can also edit it. So if you wanted to change the time that you send it or just not send it anymore, you can now send it instantly, you can edit the time, or you can delete the message altogether. Now I never thought I'd be including the calculator application in any of my iOS standout videos, but here we are, because iOS 18 made several drastic changes to the calculator application. So not only is the calculator app now on the iPad, on iPadOS 18 for the first time, but we also have an insane new feature called Math Notes. So if you're in the calculator right here and you tap on the little calculator button down here in the bottom left-hand corner, you will notice that we have some new options. So we now have scientific, math notes, and convert. So convert is cool because you could type in something and it will automatically convert that. So if you wanted to convert from USD to euros, for example, it converts that. You'll also notice that now in the calculator app, we have a backspace button, which was always kind of hidden before. But if you go back into here, I want to show you math notes because this is what is super impressive to me. So if we go ahead and tap and create a new note, and this works great on an iPad because you have an Apple Pencil, but for, the iPhone, I like to go ahead and draw it out. So if I type out 44 times 7.2 divided by 33.3, and then I put the equal sign, it will detect the equal sign and then give me the answer next to that. So I can make this smaller as well so it's easier to read, and you can see that the answer is 95.135, and it kind of puts it in a handwritten font there as well, which is just awesome. And for math notes, you don't have to write it out with your finger. I just wanted to show that because it was cool, but you can do it here, and you can see it actually auto-populates it as well, even before you type in the equals. So if I do this divided by 67.2, you can see it automatically shows me what that equation will equal. And it even gives me the option down here to just put in what is, the solution to that problem, and it erases the whole equation, which is awesome. I wish I was still in school today when this comes out because I would pass every math class. And then speaking of notes, we have another awesome feature in the Notes application called live audio transcription. So not only can you add voice memos to notes now, but you could actually have them auto transcribe as you are talking. So I use this all the time when I go on walks. I get the best ideas when I go on walks, and I like to write them down, but obviously I have to speak it because I'm walking. So now with iOS 18, I don't need to pay for an application that does that anymore. So if I go to the little clipboard down here in the bottom and you go to record audio, from here, you want to see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, we have a little annotate button. You have to press that. It is not enabled by default, but now when I press record and I start talking, you can see that it will auto transcribe everything that I'm saying. And then from there, I can either pause or tap on done. If I tap on done, you will see that it shows it just gives you this little snippet right here. And if you tap on that and then go to the annotate button, it will show in text everything that you just said when you were talking. So this is awesome. Now, there's also been a big change to the way that widgets work on iOS 18. So if you go into jiggle mode, you will see that we have a very similar grabber that we had in the control center now on the home screen for the widgets. And if you take and drag this, you can make it bigger or smaller on the fly. You don't need to delete and re-add the widget anymore like you used to. But it gets much better because if we go to done right here and then we tap and hold on the icon itself or on the widget itself, we now get some new options where you can edit like always, but take a look at what's underneath of that. You can change the size, but not only can you change the size, you can actually turn this into an app icon straight from here. So if I go ahead and tap and hold and then tap on the far left one there that indicates an icon, watch this. It turns it into the typical weather widget or the weather icon from a widget. That is awesome. Now here's another big change we've been asking for a very long time. So if you go to your lock screen and tap and hold and go to customize that and then go to the lock screen, you'll notice at the bottom, we can now change the shortcuts on the lock screen. So instead of always being the camera and the flashlight, we can now change that. So I never use the camera from the lock screen. I can do that so many other ways. So I'll tap on the minus right here, and then we have a little plus. So if you tap on the plus, you have these different options to choose from. So it pushes this up so you can see what it looks like in there, and you can have all these different options. You can even open up an application straight from the lock screen. So if I go to open app, and you can see it does run through shortcuts, I'm going to type in X, for example. So if I want to open up X from the lock screen, I can now do that straight from the lock screen, and you can do the same with the other one as well. So let's try this out. So we're going to go back to the lock screen, and you can even see it shows the X icon, the app icon of whatever you choose down there. So now if I tap on that, you will notice that it will open up that application right away. So let's do that. So it's not working now. So it is a little, there we go. So it's a little bit buggy since it is beta 1, but it looks like I have to tap and hold on that. I forgot that you have to hold on that since it is on the lock screen. So finally, we can change the icons on the lock screen. Now, the next standout feature is one that we've heard about for a while now, and it went pretty viral when Apple announced it, and that is eye tracking on the iPhone. So if you go down to your settings and then go into accessibility, you'll notice if you swipe down, we have a purple icon that says eye tracking. So you have that option and you have these different settings. So when you turn it on for the first time, you'll have to follow the dot as it moves around the screen. So I'm going to do that. All right, so it's turned on and you can see that I'm controlling, what is being selected from my eye. So the way I'm holding the camera right now is a little bit weird, so it's not perfect. And even when it was, adjusted perfectly to where I did the eye tracking test to begin with, it's not perfect. It is a beta 1, so don't expect this to be like amazing like the Vision Pro. It is definitely not, but it is pretty cool. And you can see it does snap to that section, and you can see that little black dot there. That is where my eyes are looking, and you have a little progress bar as well to select something if you keep looking at it. So if you keep looking at it, it will select it. You can see there, and it says, are you sure you want to turn it off? And then if I look at yes for long enough, it will auto select the yes button. So I'm just going to tap on yes since I have that option, but that is pretty cool. And it is definitely a standout feature. Just the fact that it even works at all and the fact that it's in beta 1 is really cool. So I would definitely recommend at least trying it out. And while we're in the settings app, I want to mention a few changes in here as well, because it is a boring application, but it is something you use on a daily basis. So there are a few changes. And if you swipe down, you'll notice right away that we have a whole section here for apps. So it's now a lot less convoluted in the main settings pane. It doesn't just scroll on and on and on based on how many apps you have. It is now a full apps section. So if you go into there, you will see all of your different applications. And this is not just third-party applications either. You will see, clock, you'll see books, you'll see first-party apps in here as well. And it's very similar to like the app library where we have the numbers on the letters on the side here. We can scroll between those, and you can also search for applications to go to their settings straight from this section, which I like this a lot. And also when you go into a section like general, for example, you'll notice that we have a new kind of heading up top that tells you what that settings pane is about. So it says manage your overall setup and preferences for iPhone, such as software updates, device language, CarPlay, AirDrop, and more. So all of that is right there. You'll notice some new glyph icons throughout as well. Now there's also a change to the iCloud settings. So if we go into our iCloud and then into the iCloud section, you will notice that this looks a lot different. So it now looks much different than it did in previous versions of iOS, and I like it a lot. It looks a lot more modern. It does take some time to get used to, but it's organized better and just has a completely new look than it did before. Now here's a big one that a lot of people have been wanting for a very long time, and this is in the phone application. We now have T9 dialing. So if I start typing in a number, you will see that we get suggestions right underneath of the number that we're typing. So if I start typing that and I continue typing it, you can see that eventually my only contact that has 1-800 is Apple. So now I can just simply tap there and it puts that in to my dialer, and I can dial that phone number even if I didn't remember the contact or the phone number. I could just type in one or the other and it will show up here because we now have T9 dialing. Oh, and speaking of the phone application, you can also now record phone calls and transcribe them afterwards. Now the recipient, the person on the other end, will hear if you are recording them. They will get a prompt that tells them that you are recording the phone call, but that is an awesome feature that I thought would never come to the iPhone. Now another feature that really impressed me was with the AirPods, specifically with Siri and the AirPods, because you can now have hands-free interactions when you have the AirPods on. For instance, if you are getting a phone call and you know how you get the prompt if you want to answer it or not, now you can simply nod your head or shake your head yes or no, and it will either answer or decline the phone call based on the direction that you're moving your head. So that is super cool. Also, we now have voice isolation for the AirPods Pros. You're going to sound really good on phone calls with voice isolation. You won't have all that background noise that you may have had beforehand. And take a look at the new animation up here in the control center. So instead of just having the options now to select portrait, studio light, reactions, and then for audio, if you want to choose voice isolation, like I just mentioned for the AirPods, take a look at the cool little animation that you get over there now. So that is brand new, and you can see the voice isolation option for the AirPods. The Photos application also got its biggest redesign ever, and this looks completely different. This actually took me the most time out of any application in iOS 18 to get the hang of, because it is just so much different. So you'll see that you have your library here. It doesn't look too different from the start, but if you go down in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see you can now sort it, and you have these filters. So you can do, favorites, edited photos, all of that is down there. And then also you have the view options. So if you wanted to zoom in or zoom out, show screenshots or hide screenshots. You can do all of that there. And then also if you're on your recents and you swipe up to go down, you will notice that we have recent days and also a new people and pets section. So recent days, you can swipe over to see your different days and pictures from those different days, which I think is pretty cool. So if I go on to, let's just go on to May 26th, for example, if I tap on that, it will show me all the pictures and videos from that specific day. And what I think is really cool is the trips section. So it's automatically going to detect when you were out of town, and it's going to create an album automatically based on trips you've taken. So for example, if I go to Orlando, it's going to show me all of the things that I did in Orlando on February 23rd and 24th. And if I go to Kissimmee and Orlando, April 6th, it shows every picture I took there. You could also create a movie out of it. So if I go over here and go to movie, it's going to show a movie that it auto creates from those images and videos. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, you can see your media types, your utilities. You can customize that section, so you can pin different albums and everything like that. So there's just a lot to cover with this. I will go into more detail, of course, in future videos, but I just wanted to mention it because it is definitely a standout feature of iOS 18. We also have a brand new first-party application with iOS 18 called Passwords. So it does require Face ID. You can see the new little splash screen there. So if I go ahead and unlock that, this is where you get access to the Passwords application, which is essentially what we already had in settings, but it's now its standalone application. So you can see your groups, all your passwords, your pass keys, your Wi-Fi codes. You can see your security here. So if you want to set up, authentication codes and things like that, you can do all that from the application now, and it looks so good. It's so much more organized than just being in the settings application. And then the final standout feature I wanted to mention is inside of Apple Music. So now if you go into the queue in Apple Music, you'll notice that we have a new UI, a new interface for the shuffle, the repeat, and the autoplay buttons. So you can now do that up top. And also when you swipe up, you can now clear your history. The queue that you listened to previously, you can now clear that. So if I tap on clear, it says, are you sure you want to clear your history? So that's something I wished that Apple Music has had for a long time, and it's finally here with iOS 18. So that is iOS 18, a massive update for the iPhone that I think is one of the biggest in recent memory. So if you guys want to continue seeing iOS 18 videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoyed this one, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.